Okay. Nothing to stand up and show you. But, Hastings. So, this is a game that's probably more important to me for its historical connotations and its innovation than it is for the fun playing. However, I can't deny I had a good time playing it this time. I think I always have a certain amount of pleasure in playing it. But the thing is, it's a little fiddly. It's some of the rules are a little rough around the edges. There's definitely some things that could use some clarification. I looked at the errata; they don't cover it, and they're not, from S&P nor any other TSR magazine that are attributed to, I think, Fire and Movement or Wargamer. I don't know. Neither one that really should be printing errata to this game particularly, but maybe it was Berg's errata, and he had a falling out with TSR about wanted to supply. I don't know. Let's talk a little bit components. Crappy TSR side-mounted glossy counters. Pain in the butt, not as bad here as in some games, but yeah, I have trouble manipulating those counters more than I do pretty much any other era's counters. A lot of the companies came out with these same glossy, side-mounted, crappy things. The map, at least, is not too bad. It's not quite a Simonson era map, but, it's pretty good for a TSR. Lots and lots of charts on the board itself. And as to my enjoyment, one of the things I mentioned, the guy gave me a lift home yesterday, was how good it was to play something that wasn't an XX type of game. And I'm counting Rolling Stock in the XX type of games. Yet that I actually enjoyed videoing. My last few videos, the Hammer of Thor, the 2U Quinto games, going all the way back to before I moved here to Dresden, and Pole Economy was okay, but not too great. Kansas Pacific, okay, whatever. But yeah, it's good to be playing something that's hex and counter and that I actually had fun with. I was beginning to wonder if I have any taste for gaming anymore, because even like Poseidon, I kind of fizzled out towards the end. But this, I feel like I enjoyed a fair amount. Anyway, we should be keeping these shorter for various reasons. So, like I said, the rules themselves have some problems. We look over basic kind of things that hit me. The most obvious thing in this game is that order system, and that's what is so absolutely, historical or innovative about it. This isn't the first game with an order system, though. It's the first one that I knew about. So it may be more of a personal innovation type thing. An order system of this type, there was plotted movement for a long time, but that's something completely different. In this case, you had, I think CWB, I think Essex CWB stuff came out a little before this, and there's also, and I don't know when it came out, but I think that Frank Chadwick did a minis game over at GDW that had something like this, where you put little chits down to order your units. Now, the other thing that I didn't know about, which is much, much earlier, and I think this kind of tries to fix some of the issues with, was, and I would grab a picture of it, but I don't feel like looking for it too much. I don't have it here. Hell no. SPI's Agincourt. SPI's Agincourt has this kind of, okay, you're just doing this, you're doing this. I don't think you rolled or anything to see what happened, but maybe you did. But you really weren't even playing the game at all. You were just pushing your pieces forward. The English would mow down the French as they came forward. Which, that was such a stinker. But it had some ideas that kind of fit in with this in terms of, I have to do this right now. I have to do this. But the idea that you had some input into it, and then you rolled a die to determine whether or not you actually got to follow the orders you had. The morale system for this adds to that by saying, well, I'm the Saxons. I should always be on the defensive. Yeah, except you get kind of, unwilling to hold the hill anymore. You get tired of fighting, basically. And the same thing for the Normans. Hey, I should be attacking all the time. There's no reason for me to defend. Nobody's going to come off and attack unless they're looking for morale. Is the, but I don't want to fatigue as I'm fighting because my capabilities go down again. So that those two systems and the interaction of them work very, very well. The actual implementation of the orders, I find myself, and this is probably the fiddliest thing in it, and you see me playing with counters all the time and rolling dice for, whether or not I get to move things or whatever, and lots of morale checks and all that. The fiddliest thing to me was having to look up these orders consistently. They don't seem to be, they don't stick in my head very well. They're well described. There's no problem with that for the most part. It's just, I just found myself not really having an easy time remembering what they were. So, I thought of something funny that guy at the start talked to me about. He's always kind of saying, "Oh, but you liked this game." With things that I feel kind of half so-so about, whereas other people are like, "Oh wow, if you liked this game with how you discussed it, how crappy you must feel about things that you say you don't like or whatever," because of the things that I find. I try to give you just a natural flow of this, and I'm excited about this game. There's things that excite me about it, but it's not really a game that I would recommend to people. Yeah, you want this for its play value. It's not a bad game. It's okay. But like Tito, I feel like it has its own little space in my history, at least, even if not maybe as important a space as I thought it did in overall gaming. Okay, so although I really do think it's the precursor to the musket and pike stuff. It's like a step in that direction. That's kind of a different direction. There's such a big jump from anything else to musket and pike, and this is the one thing that kind of sits in the middle. So the missile fire, you have this really limited ammo. That's again a pain in the ass, kind of in terms of keeping track of it. This is an important thing, though. If you didn't have the limited ammo, the Saxons would pretty much stop the Normans cold. The Ferd's ability to toss out a lot of javelins is just so effective at halting the Norman army. It's not until they run out of ammo that, unless you get very lucky, that you can kind of blow your way on top of the hill. And the timing of everything is set up. You've got enough attacks basically that you can get in, that the game is going to push towards the end every single time. I didn't use reaction movement anywhere near as much as I would like to. Not sure why. It just generally felt like I could keep my defenses more or less how I wanted them. But sometimes you want to fall back a hex. The problem is you don't want to let the Normans up on the hill, so falling back from them is kind of bad. The neat thing in combat is that you don't get to advance unless you're in one of the pursue modes, charge or attack and pursue. And that means it's really hard to gain ground. So the Saxons, even though they keep losing units on the line, they can throw new ones in usually, depending on their stance. They can't do it in shield wall. They can't advance into a melee situation there. The different orders, determine whether or not you have to fight. So like if you're in shield wall, you don't have to attack back, which can be incredibly powerful, because one of the most useful things in this game is to charge forward, hit the other guy's line. You may not do a lot of damage, but now he's got to attack a lot of your units unless they got disordered coming forward. But yeah, it overall gives a pretty nice picture. You get this ebb and flow going, of the attacks, trying to move up the hill, failing, trying to move up the hill, failing, and then eventually the Saxons run out of ammo, they can't stop you quite as well, and you're able to hit and kind of keep pushing forward. You also have this hard decision of whether to pursue your main goal, whatever that is, defensive or offensive, or to try to keep your morale close to the center where you aren't going to have real problems later in the game. Those real problems manifest much, much worse for the Saxons. One of those real problems is that as the morale goes down, things are more likely to rout, and no big shock there, but there's just this chain effect of routes that can happen. You can lose the whole battle by everybody just turning and running, and your king or whatever is able to rally whatever's near him, and other leaders can too to some extent. But man, it's really painful to watch your whole line collapse, and that's really a Saxon thing that happens, I think, more than anything else. I went into, at the end of the game, the casualty points almost unimportant. Probably should have been left out of the game because the only thing I can see them being used for, there's this restriction that the Normans can't win if they've taken more casualties than the Saxons have in points. The only way that's going to happen is if the Saxons engineer that to happen by letting the Normans have the road and win the game, basically, or do something without losing pieces and killing a couple of Normans. It's pretty easy to keep the numbers close early on in the battle. And so if the Normans are just a little ahead, hey, you might be able to force the Normans to basically lose the game that way. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, you've both preserved your armies and you didn't fight this battle, and that's really what would have happened. I didn't try to take advantage of that, but it seems open to gaming manipulation, whereas the rule seems like it's designed to prevent some kind of weird case, but it's one that almost can't happen, I think, under normal play. Anyway, it's an interesting enough game that I certainly, suggest it compared to most of the magazine games that I've seen out there. For one thing, it's not World War II, so it's not boring like that. No, but it's hard for me to get excited about. But it's a fair coverage of the battle. I've played one other game. Revolution Games did a Hastings and Lack Hill battle. It's an okay game, It's smoother playing and everything than this, but it's more of a standard war game where you're just trying to line up your factors. It's more cerebral and lacks that sort of oomph of, oh gosh, I didn't get the orders I wanted, this, that, and the other. It has nothing like the orders rule, which I think are actually the brilliant thing in this by so many ways. And, if you're more into a conventional flavor of game where you control your pieces and you're trying to look for that geometric edge where you can get an extra factor in or whatever and improve your odds a little bit. You still have some excitement with die rolls and such not, but yeah, it just didn't leave me with the same kind of, wow, this is a really interesting treatment. It left me with, this seems like a solid little game, which, depends on what your mood is. Anyway, I prefer this one just maybe because I've had it for a while. I'm not sure, but also because of its significance, at least in me seeing orders systems coming forward. You could say, well, look, the CWB system was out there before, and it's more richly developed and everything, and yeah, that's true, but it also requires something that some players wouldn't like, just like this has something in it that some players wouldn't like. It requires that you write the orders down, that you have a certain trust as to what you can do, whatever. This is more of a straight out, all right, you got your rules in front of you, just play the game as it's written. If you can figure out just a couple little ambiguities that are there. All right, let's end it up.